welcome to the Dirt Trail Running Podcast. My name is Michelle Hartwig, and I am your host. I am also a race director for many Midwest trail races like Kettle Moraine 100, Hennepin 100, and Midwest States 100 coming in 2021. And I am here with my co-host, Crystal the Pistol.
Hey, how's it going, everyone? I have a question for those of you watching. If you ever had a Tamagotchi, let me know because my daughter has one now and she's 10, and I want to know if anyone remembers Tamagotchis.
What
That is all.
what is Tamagotchi?
So it's like this little keychain, and it's like a little animal, and there's like buttons on it, and you have to like take care of it. You have to feed it, clean up its poop, you have to play with it. But it's like all in this little keychain. It's like a little pod. It's almost like a little I don't know, it's like a video, not really a video game. It's like a little electronic thing. I don't know.
Well, that's cool. I've never had one. It was not my era.
I thought they were like 20 years ago, but apparently they're back. So that's it from me.
Well,
Just
thanks,
want to
Crystal.
know if like they're back. I don't know. I get stuck on these things. I need to know, are they back? Or is it just like a one-off thing that she got? I must know.
Okay, so everybody leave comments on this. Important
Tamagotchi.
stuff.
It is very important. Not as important as our guest tonight, though.
I know. So we have Kevin Sass tonight, and he recently finished the Moab 240 in-person race. So exciting to be at an in-person race. So congratulations.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and you finished Kettle last year.
I did for the first time, yes.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
noticed. Oh, go ahead.
it took me 4 attempts over 5 years to finally finish it.
And was that your first 100-mile finish?
No, my first 100-mile finish was the Daytona 100 in 2016.
Oh yeah, I saw that. I was looking at Ultra Sign Up, and you've done that a couple times, and look very impressive. Like 22-hour finish or something. That's like impressive in there. But it's a December race. Like that race looks super cool to me. Can you tell me a little bit about what that is?
Yeah, it's a point to point from Jacksonville all the way down the coast to Daytona. It runs on the beach total of 2 to 3 times, depending on the weather. The last time we did it, they had a hurricane about a month before, so they had to reroute the course a little bit. But I would say the beach is probably like 30 miles in, and then right at the finish as well. But everybody thinks that running on sand is bad, but the Daytona, they used to do the drag races and the speedways on the beach because the sand is so hard and compact that you can drive a car on it. So running on the sand there is just like running on concrete. It's no problem. But the nice thing is that you have the ocean right there. You get the ocean breeze. You get the wonderful views. I mean, and the towns you run through and the cities are just extremely, let's say, wealthy. So you get some amazing views of just the real estate down there. Plus, you're just along the beach most of the race, so you get to see a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah, it sounds really cool. And does it have something to do with the Daytona 500 race? Like I come from like to me, I saw Daytona 100. It made me think of the Daytona 500 race.
No, it just finishes on Daytona Beach where they used to have the
Okay.
races many years ago. That's the only part that has to do with it.
And I saw you did it a couple times. You got family there or something?
No, the first time I did it I was actually fortunate to do a 6-week cross country road trip, and the Daytona was the end of week number 1. So I went from Wisconsin, where I live, drove down to Florida, spent a week there, and then I did the race, and then I made my way across the country. And it was just a winter race in Florida, and being from Wisconsin, I was like, I can be in shorts for a while. This is great. So that's why I did it then. And then in 2018, I came back because I just had enough points on my credit card to get a free flight. So I was like, I'm going back to Florida. So yeah, it was it's a very flat and fast course. So I knew the course very well from the first time. So that's why when I'm back there the second time, I was more prepared because I knew the aid stations were and so on and so forth. So it was a lot better the second time.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the first I had heard of that race. I'm surprised, but it looks a lot of fun. I'm definitely going to have to check it out. It sounds like something Crystal would like. I keep signing Crystal up for stuff.
I know, every time she's getting me doing FKTs, but I do like the beach, so
Yeah, maybe
that's a
we'll have
plus.
to check that out.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, tell us a little bit about you as a runner. Like, when did you start running?
I started running races back in middle school, seventh and eighth grade, cross country. Was never a big part of my life back then, but it just was something to do, and it was something I was decently good at, so I had fun with it. And after that, in high school, I didn't run, but I played soccer midfield, so it's running a lot anyway. And then after high school and college, I just ran once in a while to stay in shape, but never anything ridiculously long or like that. Like I couldn't run more than an hour and a half, 2 hours without my knees hurting real bad. So I was like, yeah, maybe this is it for me and no farther. But um, one of my friends from high school, she had two ACL replacements and she finished her first marathon. So I was like, well, if she can figure it out and finish it, I'm like, I can figure it out and finish it. So it took me a little bit, but I finally got it done. And my first ever marathon was 5:01. So it was very slow. But I had the delusion I was going to qualify for Boston my first time, and that didn't happen. But I got better at it. And after my first marathon of 5:01, 22 months later, I qualified for Boston with a 2:59. So did a lot of work in a very short period of time.
Wow, that's
moly.
impressive.
Yeah.
How did you do that? Did you like get a coach, or did you make a schedule yourself, or did you just try running really fast all the time?
Um, Running really fast all the time helped. No, I just did a lot of internet research, just looking up, how to run faster, the proper mechanics of running, training schedules, stuff like that. Because when I did my first one, I didn't follow a schedule at all. I didn't know what I was doing. I just went in with it feeling like, yeah, I feel like I'm pretty healthy, but obviously I wasn't. So it's just a lot of self lessons and, if this hurts, how do I fix this? And then get better so it doesn't hurt the next time and so on and so forth. And then when I did my first qualified, I was running probably 65, 70 miles a week, working two jobs. And it was, it was stressful just to have a lot of hours and a lot of running. So I had no free time at all. But when I crossed that finish line, knowing I was going to Boston, it was well worth all the hard work.
Yeah, I mean, people try for years to try to get into Boston. That's amazing. Great job.
Well, thank you.
I'm always extra impressed because my most competitive time running, I worked, but I worked at home, so all my computer work was done. I didn't have to change clothes to go to work, and I'm always so impressed with people that that can juggle that job and get up in the morning, do their Boston training, and yeah, really great job.
Well, thank you.
How did, like, you cross that finish line? Did you think, how far can I go? Like, what transitioned you into like doing ultras, or do you consider yourself an ultra person now?
I do consider myself an ultra person now. After I did my first Boston, I didn't even know about ultra running at all. And I think within like the next year or two, I saw an article on some social post. It was like 100-mile races. I was like, what? No, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And slowly but surely, I started meeting people that started doing ultra marathons around the area, and I was just talking to them. And I think I did my first ever trail run at High Cliff State Park, and it was just doing laps with friends. And I was like, this is a lot more fun. It's a lot more relaxed. You get to eat a lot more food. It's a great time. So I just slowly got into it, and I was working at Sherwin-Williams at the time, and I worked with a guy that has done the Fall 50 in Sturgeon Bay area many times. And I was just talking with him, and he finally just wore me down and talked me into it. And I was just like, okay, I think I can do this. So I told myself on my birthday, which is in December, I was going to run from my house in Green Bay to my parents' house in Appleton, which is about a 50K. And I said, if I could do a 50K, then I could do a 50-mile. So when I finished that 50K on my birthday, then I signed up for the Fall 50 when registration opened up in the spring, and haven't looked back since.
And how did that go?
It was great. Being a first ultra, it was also the site for the USA National Championships for the 50-mile road race. So it's just extra excitement of being there and being with, the elites and stuff like that. So that was fun. And I was like, I'm going to compete as best I can. Like, do I have a shot at top? No, I don't. But I just want to try my best. And I ran, I think it was like 7 hours and 31 minutes for 50. So I was very impressed with that. I was very happy. I think
I'm
I took
very
like,
impressed.
yeah, I think I took like 25th overall out of like a little over 100 people. So I was like, I think I'm pretty good at this. Maybe I should keep going.
Well, 25th, like a lot of races, that would have been top, that would have been podium. That was just a
Right.
very
Yeah.
competitive race.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So how did you train for that? Did you like that was have you ever worked with a coach?
No, I've never worked with a coach. I just talked to people that I knew, like the guy at Sherwin-Williams I talked to, and he's been doing it for many years. So I just asked him what his training schedule was like, and just reading a lot of articles and books and whatever I could find online. And the biggest thing I found was just doing a lot of back-to-back long runs. So doing, 20, 30 miles on Saturday and doing another 10 to 15 on Sunday. So it just was getting used to running while you're tired on Sunday. So I call it slow mile Sunday is what I call it.
Yeah.
Because it's, you're tired and you're sore and you don't want to get up and do it. But when you're done, your body will get used to it and adapt and get stronger for the next time. So it's just running more miles than I was used to. And with my schedule at the time, it was just run as many miles as I could because I didn't have a lot of free time. But I did it and I stayed healthy, thankfully. So that's what got me to the finish line.
Yeah, so you were probably consistently getting out. So like, do you run 7 days a week or 5 days a week? Like,
back then I was probably doing six days a week, but now I probably do about five to six. I mean, right now, since I'm done running and racing for the year, I might be doing 3 or 4 days a week at the most. But during training, I'm doing at least 5 to 6 days a week. Yeah.
And then you went on to do kettle. Was that the next race that you went on to do? The 100?
Yeah. A friend of mine was from high school was going to do kettle the year. I think it was like 2014 or 2015. And he talked me into it. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. And I DNF'd the first year. I made it to 100K, which was still farther than I've ever been before. So it was great. But I learned a lot that year of, what not to do for the next time. And it's just with a lot of ultra running, it's learning from your mistakes and going forward and just making sure that you're doing the next thing better than the previous. So I remember going to that first kettle race and I had some friends of mine crewing and one of my friends looked at me and he's like, what's with all the hippies? And I was like, I don't know, man. I think that's just the way it is here. I don't know.
And like all the calf sleeves.
Yeah, all the apparel that was like, what are these people wearing? I don't get it. But now it's all normal to me now. Yeah.
What do you think that what did you learn that got you to be able to finish?
Well, the first year, the reason I DNF'd was due to my stomach giving up on me. I mean, I had lost at 100K. It took me like 13 hours, and I had lost like 8-9 pounds of body weight, mostly fluids, just sweating, not eating enough. So it was just learning to listen to my body, eat when I need to, drink more than I need to, and then just slowing down a little bit here and there. Run when you can, walk when you have to, walk when you should, for sure. It's just mostly just listening to your body and pushing yourself when you can and when you cannot. Just making sure you're doing the smart decisions and just try to have more fun with it. If you can have a lot more fun when you're running, things are going to be a lot better in the long run.
Well, that's impressive. If you got to the 100K at 13 hours. Like,
yeah, it was fast.
Yeah.
It was fast, but a little too fast, obviously.
Well, that's good. Well, I'm glad that you came back and finished the 100. I noticed on your picture that I have a sweet spot in my heart for running stores. Like, I saw you had a runaway shoes shirt on. Do you work there or like have friends there or something?
I have a lot of friends that work there. I also work with them. I help with all their races. They put on like 5 or 6 events a year, and I've been working with them for about 6 years now. And for the first couple of years, it was just helping with the course setup and takedown. So putting out cones, turn signs, and just race day logistics of, the finish line take, because it's a big party with all their races. So it's just making sure that, the food is taken care of, the beer is taken care of, and everybody's just doing what they need to do and just kind of just management at the finish line. And then as of this year, I mean, obviously all the races were canceled except one. I actually work with their timing now because one of my part-time jobs is I do race timing. So like 5Ks and marathons and triathlons and stuff like that. So Runaway bought their own timing system. So now my job is to help out with that.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that they're doing well. I love all the, family-owned businesses, and the run stores are so special to us because they do it because it's what they care about. They care about runners.
Right. Yeah, they're great people.
Yeah, that's great. So you finished kettle, and then you're like, okay, what do I do next? When did you decide to do Moab 240?
So when I finished Kettle, it was at 2019. I had a friend that year that was doing Tahoe, and I just saw what he was doing in the training. I just saw the pictures in the YouTube videos of Tahoe. I'm like, that just looks gorgeous. So I told myself going into Kettle, I'm like, if I finish Kettle finally this year, I'm like, I'm signing up for 200. So when I finally crossed that finish line, it was a bittersweet moment. I break down emotionally. I was crying happy tears, and I was just like, I'm so happy I finally finished it. But I was like, oh my God, I've got so much work to do. I've got so much work to do. But yeah, just because it was something bigger and better, and just the scenery and the people and the travel, it was an adventure that I think I was willing to take on.
So how did you so you're saying you have so much work to do, you finished the 100, and I'm guessing you didn't feel like you could do another 140 miles right then.
No. No.
So,
no, that year at Kettle, I mean, it rained, and they had over a 50% drop rate that year because the course was just destroyed. But I mean, that year I went into it mentally tough, and I was like, there's no way that I'm not finishing again. So I'm like, no matter what it takes, I'm finishing. And I told myself many times, I'm like, there's a difference between being hurt and being injured. Everybody's going to be hurting. Everybody's going to be sore and tired. But I'm like, as long as there's something not broken or long permanent damage, there's no reason to stop. Just keep going. So that's what I did.
Yeah, I do think that might have been the toughest year ever at Kettle.
Yeah.
Like, it was sloppy, muddy.
Yeah, it was.
Just rained the entire time. Did you get to see any of the lightning out in the meadows?
Oh yeah. There was a guy next to me with trekking poles, and I was like, I don't know if those are carbon fiber or metal, but I'm like, can you please go away from me, please? I don't want to be hit by lightning.
Yeah, that was my very first ultra I ever went to was Kettle, and I remember it was lightning, and everybody's just like not even worried about it. Like a tornado came, and they're like, "Oh, no big deal."
Right.
Like that's where you learn where all the tough people are.
Yeah.
So okay, so you finished Kettle, and now like the immediate next goal was did you know it was Moab, or were you thinking Tahoe? Like, what were you thinking?
No, I was planning on Tahoe, but of course the first year I signed up for it is the first year they have a lottery system. So I didn't get in. So I was like, but I'm like, well, Moab is, another 35 miles longer than Tahoe. So it's like, well, if I'm going to go big, I might as well go all the way. So I just signed up because there was no wait list. There's no lottery. It's just sign up and you're in. So that's when it just came to realization. It's like, I've got a lot of work to do. So I got to do my research, and I got to mentally and physically prepare for the race itself.
And so when was registration for Moab?
I think it was January 1st.
January 1st. And so like when did you start your training for that? And what kind of training did you do?
I started my training, Kettle was in June. I think I started my training like mid to end July of the same year. So I was training for almost 15 months for Moab. Obviously I knew that I was going to get into it because there was no wait list, but I knew that I said physically prepare. There's some people out there that can train for 6 to 7 months to be fine, but it was my first time doing it. So I just want to make sure I was doing it right. So I started very slow, very low miles, and just slowly build my way up. My plan was I do 3 weeks up of mileage, and then I do 1 week of recovery. So it's like 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and then just slowly keep building for the full 15 months. And the biggest thing I did for training was I had a weight vest, and I started with 10 pounds, and I worked my way up to 20 pounds, and I would go to the local college where they have a football stadium, and I'd run their stairs, and I worked my way up to doing 1,000 feet twice a week with 20 pounds for the last 2 to 3 months of training. It sucks, but I tell people, like, it never gets easier. You just get better at it. So I went from like 45 minutes of doing it down to like 26 minutes. So I was like, yeah, it still sucks, but I could tell I was getting better at it just because of the times.
I think that's really good advice. That's one thing I remember I had to realize. It's like, when's it going to start getting easy? It's like, no, it doesn't get easy.
It never gets easier. You just get better at it.
Yeah. So like, okay, that's really great. Like, how many miles a week? Like you gradually built up over the 17 months. Like, where did you start? And like, how many miles were you building up to each week?
When I started, I was probably averaging like low 30s, 32 to 35 miles. And then the last, I would say 3 months of training, I was probably averaging about 70 miles a week. And most of it was on the weekend. My training partner and I, we go out on Friday nights and walk anywhere from 10 miles to a half marathon, sometimes 15, get a little bit of sleep Friday night, and then head out early Saturday morning and do trail miles. We were on the trails every single weekend this spring, summer, and then late summer. Um, a lot of the weekends in the last 2 months were like 50 or 60-mile weekends. So it was a lot of like 30 miles on Saturday and another 20 miles on Sunday, or sometimes just back-to-back marathons. So it got exhausting a little bit, but you start early enough. Like my training partner likes to do, she likes to get up way too early, at like 4 a.m. on Saturdays, and get out so we can be done by 11 o'clock noon. So
And yeah, when you get back, my favorite part is like, do you get to take a nap when you get
oh
done?
yeah, especially in the summertime, it's just nap and then have some cocktails in the afternoon and just have a lazy Saturday.
Yeah, yeah, that's a perfect Saturday.
Yeah, it's like you're too tired to do anything, so might as well just drink a little bit anyway.
And you feel so happy about taking a nap and drinking because you
Oh yeah,
deserved it, you earned it.
for sure.
So like, and with the weighted vest, did you actually run with the weighted vest on those long runs, or was it just on those other runs?
No, the weighted vest is mostly just for stairs.
Okay.
It was just added weight to build the muscles going up the stairs and then going down the stairs. And a lot of people I've talked to that have done ultras are like, yeah, you can go up as much as you want, but you need to train for the down, because a lot of people don't train going downhill, because you got to get used to your feet jamming in your shoes, your shins, your knees, your hips, just because in any mountain race, you're going to go down, no matter if it's a mountain or a canyon or whatever, but you got to go down. But the long runs, it was just wearing my pack that I wore on the race. So mostly just water weight, which is probably like 8 to 10 pounds. But for the last couple months, on Friday nights, we would load it up with weights to almost full weight. So it'd be up to 15, 16 pounds. And we just walk for, 10 to 15 miles on Friday nights.
That's really cool. I like the walking part of it with added stuff on there. Uh,
Yeah.
so like how did you so you're coming up with your own plan, and like I love the way you're thinking about the course. So I'm guessing like maybe you had studied the course and then tried to figure out how to get your body ready for it. Like can you tell us how your strategy was on that?
The course research I saw was just mostly just looking at the elevation. And from the pictures I saw, from the race reports I read, and from the YouTube videos, stuff like that, I mean, you can only see so much on the line. So it's like, well, I can't exactly know what it's going to be like, but I can see the basic conditions. It's like, it's going to be desert. It's going to be rocky. It's going to be hot. It's going to be dry. So it's just like, well, do as much heat training as you can during the summertime and just accept the heat. It's going to suck, but just get through it. And for the rocky parts, we went down to the northern kettle section in Greenbush, Glenbula area. And that's the worst part of the kettles because it's so rocky out there. But the first couple of months doing that, it's like my knees were hurting, my ankles were hurting. But by the time I was done with that, I was rock solid, and all the ligaments and all the joints were just fine. So I could run over rocks now, no problem.
So you showed up for the race. Were you feeling pretty confident?
Oh, very confident. Yeah, physically, I trained, especially with the weight vest. It's like I want to train harder than what I'm going to race with. So like my race pack is only 16 pounds fully loaded, but the weight vest I had was 20 pounds. So I was training for harder conditions of what I was going to be actually carrying. And then for the long runs I would do here in town or on the trails, I'd go a little bit faster than what I was used to. And I knew that when I was on the course, I'd be walking a lot more and hiking, stuff like that. So just if you could train for harder than what the conditions are going to be, you're probably going to be better off.
So what explain the race to us, like the elevation, how long you have, what you were, like how far between aid stations. Can you explain some of that?
Sure, the elevation for Moab, it was 29,000 feet of gain and 29,000 feet of loss total. So I was telling my parents, I was like, it's like going from sea level to the top of Everest and back down, basically. Obviously not, one stretch, but you're going up and down and up and down and up and down. So the course itself, it's absolutely gorgeous, but it's very dry, very dusty, very rocky. I mean, there's some parts that are, cheap roads, and there's some roads to run on. So there's a lot of runnable stuff, but there are rocky spots for sure. So you just got to take that as it is. In terms of the course, like day one was the most scenic for sure. And then overnight one, and then day two is just desert and more desert, flat desert. It's just like it never ends. But when you get towards the end, like day three, day four, for me, you're up in the mountains again. So you just see all this gorgeous scenery. You get to see the entire course. You're like, wow, that's a lot bigger than I thought it was. So you get a real concept for how long 240 miles is. When you're up in the top of the mountain, you can see the entire course. It's like, oh my God.
So
But yeah,
you
it was just very dry and dusty. So like I was talking to one of my friends that did the race the first year it happened, and he's like, two things of advice. He's like, take care of your feet and carry more water than you think you need. He's like, if you do that, you'll be fine.
and did you have goals of how long it would take you, or like how what was your strategy for the race?
For time, the course is 112-hour cutoff, so it's like almost 5 days. My original goal was just to break 100 hours, just because it was a nice number. So it's like my goal was 99 hours, and then having more confidence during my training, my goal was then 85 hours, but which I didn't run. That's okay. Um, but I used the same strategy at Moab that I did at Kettle. It was just slow down. Every time you think you're going too fast, just slow down. Like, because for me, it's not a race. It's just an endurance event. Like for most people that do it, because I know I'm not an elite runner, and I know I'm not going to, be in the podium. So it's like I just want to finish. That's the main goal. But obviously, it's like there's going to be highs, there's going to be lows. So push the pace when you're feeling good, and then when you're feeling low, just walk. But walk with a purpose.
And how far between aid stations?
The average was about 15 to 20 miles. The first one was about 10 miles in, and that was just some snacks and food and water and stuff like that. But then the first major aid station where crew was around mile 17, and then you don't see crew again until mile 72. But there were a couple aid stations between that with some food and water. But the first, I would say, day and a half to 2 days, because the course was so hot, they were running low on water, they were running out of ice, they were running low on soda and food. So it was a lot of people were not doing well because the aid stations were lacking a little bit. But I think it's just because people were taking more water and more ice than they've ever had. So that's why they were running low on supplies. But yeah, 15 to 20 miles. But after you get used to it, you realize how much water you need, how much food you need, and you can just make it to the next aid station as long as you plan for it.
And did it go well? Did everything go well for you, or did you have some really tough times?
The hardest time I had was the end of the first day for me. So it was mile 57, the aid station I came into, and when I was getting there, I had not eaten for about 5 to 6 hours because my stomach had turned on me and I was just not doing well. So I got in there very low in energy. I was still drinking a lot of water, but it just was like I had zero energy because I hadn't eaten in such a long time. And I sat down and I was trying to stay by the fire as close as I could, but there was a lot of people there, so I'm shivering. It's probably 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm just feeling like death, and I'm trying to nap just to get my muscles to relax, but I couldn't do it. And I was just like thinking to myself, I'm like, is this where it ends already? 57 miles in? I'm like, this can't be it. And the people at the aid stations were like telling other people, I'm like, if you want to drop, you can drop, but no one's going to come get you for 8 hours because we're in the middle of nowhere. Crew's not allowed here, and we're not leaving for another couple hours. So it's like, oof. So I was talking to some people. I'm like, well, if we're going to complain about it and talk about how miserable we are, I'm like, let's just keep moving forward. So I just filled up with water, and thankfully the aid station gave me a Ziploc full of bacon, and I just snacked on that as much as I could for the next 15 miles, and I made it to mile 72, which I finally slept. So that was the lowest point of the race for me. But after that, it was pretty good.
So then you started to feel a little bit back to normal, and you had some highs coming back.
Yeah, yeah. When I finally slept at mile 72 for about an hour, that helped a lot, and I got some food down, which some of it came back up, but just getting sleep felt really, really good. And then day two was just really, really hot. But then the end of my day two, I was about mile 120, which I slept. I was planning for 2 hours of sleep, but I slept for about an hour 45. And when I woke up, I felt like I'd slept 10 hours. It was so amazing because going up to the aid station, I was sleepwalking, I was hallucinating, just was like I just need to close my eyes. It's so hard. And I got to the aid station probably like 6:30 in the morning, so it's still dark out there. And then when I slept and woke up, the sun had come up, so it helped my brain reset for, oh, it's a new day, it's time to get up, time to get moving. And then my stomach was finally 100% feeling great.
one thing I was wondering about, did you have crew?
Yeah, I had my crew. She was my training partner. She was training for Tahoe, which she didn't get into. One because it got canceled for, and other reasons it got canceled. But the plan was I was going to go crew her at Tahoe, and then she's return the favor, crew at me at Moab. But since she didn't get in, she was still willing to come to Moab, thankfully. So that was very nice of her. So we've been training together, so she knew how I would react to certain things and what I needed and what I wanted during the aid stations. And having her there was great because we had a rental car as well. So I was able to sleep in the back of the rental car instead of on a cot or out in the dirt where some people were, very cold and exposed to elements. So it was nice just having that extra comfort level of being in a car and changing clothes and just having someone help me, get my stuff together, get me back on the road again.
But was the race possible to do without a crew?
Yeah, there's quite a few people that didn't have crew. I mean, maybe I could have done it without her. I don't know. It definitely would have been a lot harder without her. So I'm grateful she was there. And I talked to some of the people that didn't have crew, and they're like, I wish I would have, but they still got it done. So it is possible. And a lot of people that do those races do them uncrewed just because the cost involved and the travel and the time commitment, stuff like that. It's hard to get a lot of people out there, but I was very fortunate to have someone out there with me.
And I'm looking at, so anybody that's listened to the podcast, there's a picture behind them of just gorgeous Moab. And I'm wondering, like, is there like cliffs, what's it like? Did you feel like you were going to fall off ever? I know canyon stuff kind of freaks me out sometimes. So I'm just wondering what it was like.
No, where this picture was taken was on day one, and it was very wide open, not a lot of steep drops at all. It was just the scenery was gorgeous on the first day. There's only two times that I actually felt scared for my safety. And the first one was about mile, I would say like 190. We're going up the mountain, and it was really, really steep climb. We're going up to about 10,000 feet. So it's a little bit harder to breathe being from Wisconsin. And it was a very steep single track. And I started slipping backwards, and thankfully I had a pacer at the time. And she just grabbed me. And I was like, oh, thank God, because I would have kept tumbling for quite a bit. And then the second time was in the last 16 miles. I was going through this very open, rocky canyon area, and there's a little trail that I had to jump up to. And when you're, 230 some miles in, you're like, jumping's not really going to happen. So it just was like, well, if I put my trekking pole on there to push myself up and the pole slips, there's a 500-foot drop to my right.
Oh my
So
gosh.
yeah, it's just like, so don't do that. So I just, I grabbed the rocks and pulled myself up slowly and carefully. But that was the only other part of the course that was a little risky.
Yeah, that sounds. But then you're like, I'm not gonna like not keep going now. I went this far.
Oh,
I
for
have
sure.
to get
Yeah.
past it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I might have turned around and just went back to the start, but I don't know. So, and it's also COVID year, which we kind of skipped over, and I actually meant to ask you. I'm curious, like, what was the race like because of COVID? And I'm also curious about your training because of COVID. Like, were you worried about the race being canceled since so
Yeah, I
much
was I
stuff?
was I was worried about the race being canceled because they canceled the other two 200s. So I was like, oh boy. But I knew that Utah, it's very remote comparatively to a lot of other places, and there were still other races in Utah going on. So I wasn't too concerned, and they were doing a lot of updates on their Facebook and Instagram page. They're like, no, we're still good to go. And then I think like a couple of weeks before the race, they're like, we got our permits, we're set to go. So just prepare to show up. And with my training with COVID, it was kind of a blessing in disguise because with all the races I do work during the summertime, I usually work like 25 events. So it's like every weekend or every other weekend during the summer. So having those canceled this year gave me a lot of time to train. So that was good for me physically. Um, and then just it was my training partner and I. So it was just the two of us out in the trails like every single weekend. Once in a while we run into people, but for the most part, it'd just be the two of us. So I wasn't too concerned about that. And then the race itself, check-in, they did it was instead of being like a 2-hour window, they did all day long the day before, and they had people sign up. You're supposed to be here between like noon and 1 o'clock for your time. And then when you come in, obviously you have your mask on and stuff like that, and they do temperature checks. And at the race start, everybody's gonna have a mask on, and every time you go to an aid station, you have to have a mask on. And they were very strict about that with the volunteers. There was one person at the aid stations for the first couple of days just guiding people. They're saying, put your mask on before you get here, make sure you got your mask on. They were just kept, visually and verbally telling people all the time, like, you have to keep your mask on. Like, we don't want to get shut down. Just please follow the rules. But then once you leave the aid station, you can, go back about your business and take the mask off as needed.
Yeah, so yeah, it sounds like you felt really like a very safe place to be
Yeah,
in.
yeah,
Done
for sure.
very well.
Yeah, and Moab is a very small town. It's like 8,000 people, so you're not dealing with a lot of people to begin with. So it was pretty good.
Um, did you feel like you did it? Like what did you learn? Was there something that you're now, if you went back, that you would do differently in training, preparing, like what you brought?
No, for the if I was to do the exact same course again, let's say the exact same conditions, there would be more parts that I would run because I did a decent amount of hiking, but that's just because I didn't know the course and I've never gone that far before. So it's like, well, I don't want to push it and burn out too early or get dehydrated or whatever. Because there's some people I ran into, they're like, I ran out of water like an hour ago. I was like, oh boy, that's scary. The closest I got to running out of water was like I had 4 ounces left of 3 liters is what I was carrying with me at all times. So that was a little scary, but I was shocked with how my body responded during the race. Like my hips, my knees, everything felt great the entire race. The only thing that was really hurting was from the ankles down because my feet were, the main source of impact. So it's just impact, a little bit of blisters, not too bad, but a little bit of swelling. But other than that, my body felt really, really good. So my training definitely paid off big time. And I was glad that I did all those up and down the stairs at the Wayfest for sure.
Yeah, that sounds great. Do you have do you like when you finished kettle, you knew you were going to do a 200, like did you have anything preset in your mind like what your next challenge is?
After Moab,
Yeah.
no, with this one, just because I spent so much time training, it was, like I said, 15 months. I just was looking forward to being done, not just with the race, but just having a weekend free. Is like I can sleep in, I can relax, I can catch up on some Netflix shows or whatever, just have some more time with friends. But I'm just happy with the time off right now. I'm still staying active, but not putting 30 miles on a Saturday just because I want to or I need to. So I'm trying not to think about what's next. I'm just trying to enjoy the time right now. But I'm sure the next couple of weeks I'll be like, okay, what's next? And then with the way that COVID is, who knows? So I can't plan too much. But I've got some ideas rattling around right now. But I'm just trying to keep those to myself for now.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yes. So when did you know on the course that you were going to finish?
I would say after my stomach came back at mile 72, it started to come back slowly, and then it got better throughout day two. So it was like once my stomach was good, especially at the halfway point at mile 120, my stomach was rock solid. I was feeling great. I had a lot of energy. I had my first caffeine at mile 120, which was a Red Bull. And I was just feeling like a rock star. I put my headphones in, put some metal on. I was just ready to go. So I was like, there's no way that I'm stopping unless I fall and break my leg or something like that. So um, one thing that my training partner gave me was a little booklet beforehand, and she put on the front cover. She said, don't even think about quitting. It's not an option, and that stuck with me. And it was a little bit easier with the Moab course because it's one giant loop, unlike Kettle where you can do an outback and you see your car. It's right
Yeah.
there.
Oh, yeah,
So
that 100K part is tough.
oh, that's rough. But this one, it was because it's one loop. It's like, well, here's the start and here's the finish. So there's really no reason to stop in between unless I'm obviously injured. But another thing that kept me going was what's over the next bridge, what's around the turn, just for the scenery because it's just so gorgeous out there. And I've never been out there before, so I just wanted to see what was next. And I didn't want to have the opportunity. It's like, well, if I stopped here, maybe I would have missed the best part of the course. So that's another reason that kept me going.
So what was the last 5 miles like? I cry. What was it like for you?
Well, let's go with the last 16 was because that was the last segment. We hit the
Okay.
aid station on like mile 230, I don't know, 224, I think it was. And that was the last aid station. And it was there from the finish. So from there, I took off and I was just feeling great. And my patient I had previous, he's like, oh, I did the research. He's like, it's pretty easy to the finish line, which it was not. It was not at all. So it was going through the mountains again a little bit, but it was still fun until it wasn't. And I started subbing my toes on like every single rock, and then I rolled an ankle, and it was all the pain came back. Like the previous 100 miles felt so good. It's a weird thing to say, but the previous 100 felt great. And then the pain came back, and it was a reminder. It's like, this is what an ultra is. It's supposed to be painful. It's supposed to hurt a little bit. So it was a struggle to get down to the road. The last 3.4 miles was on a bike path. So going into that, you're up at the top of this mesa area, and you can see the road, but you got to get down to it. But once I got the road, I was like, okay, I know I have 3.4 to go. I know it's flat, so I'm just going to give it and just go. And I told myself when I signed up for it that I knew that that last 5K ish was flat. So I had a goal of, I want that 5K to be my fastest 5K the whole course. And I haven't gone through the numbers yet, but I think it was, just because I knew that I was going fast, and all my friends messaged me after the race. They're like, we were watching you and you were going so fast. Like I was just like, I was ready to be done. But it felt so good. I was just like, well, I'm already tired. I'm already hurting. There's no reason to stop now. So I'm like, just push through the pain. I can walk this last 3.4 in an hour, or I can run it and be done in like 35 minutes. That's what I did.
That is amazing. Congrats. That's really
Oh, thank you.
great. So what happened? Well, one other question on the course. Were you seeing other people, or were you only seeing people when you came into the aid stations?
No, obviously the first, I would say day and a half, you're seeing a lot of people because they started in 15-minute waves. So the first day for sure, you're seeing a lot of people, and you're getting past and you're passing people, so on and so forth. But then closer to the end of day 2, you're spread out and you're not seeing people for a while. And then like day 3 and 4, you're spread out pretty good. So you're not seeing people for a couple miles sometimes. But I would say there's no more than like 2-3 hours that I wasn't seeing anybody, because you're always seeing somebody, even if you pass them and they're taking a nap on the side of the trail, you're seeing somebody somewhat frequently. So, yeah, the conversations become less and less frequent because either the person you're running with drops off, or you take off, or vice versa, and then just people get spread out for whatever reasons.
And it's pretty much wilderness. Like you're not seeing towns and stuff along the way, right?
No, I mean, you do a small, like not a loop, but it's just a small curve, and you see Moab within the first couple miles again. But after that, you really don't see anything. I mean, you see 1 or 2 small towns in the middle of the desert, but there's really nothing there. So yeah, it's definitely a lot of wilderness. So it was like, if I'm out here, no one's coming to get me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that adds to the adventure of
Oh,
it.
for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
What about wild animals? Is there anything that you need to be aware of? Like, is there mountain
No,
lion, bear?
I was shocked by the lack of wildlife. I was expecting to see something, but I mean, it is a desert, so there's only going to be so many animals, and it's the winter time ish, so it's cooler, so there's going to be less, cold-blooded animals out. I saw a couple small lizards that were like maybe 2-3 inches long. I saw a couple birds. We saw one tarantula. That was about it. And then like the biggest wildlife we saw was a porcupine, and that was like mile 205.
They're
So
so
yeah,
cute.
there's almost no wilderness. I mean, it ran into some cows, but I mean, it was just a big wild, wide open range for cows. So that was about it though. Yeah, there wasn't much out there.
So then you crossed the finish line. Like, what happened? Was there people there? Like, what did that look like?
Yeah, I mean, the finish line was great. I had it's you're running down the road to the finish, and then it's just into like an RV park. So it's just this little, maybe like 100 yards inside the RV park, but they have the archway up and the photographers and the finish line with the timing mats, stuff like that. So you just know it's like, oh man, it's all coming together right now. And my crew was there, my pacers were there, and it's familiar faces, and all the race staff is there, and everybody's cheering for it. And it was an amazing experience for sure. And it's coming down that chute was just all the feelings, all the pain, everything just goes away, and it's just total euphoria at the finish. Just like, wow, I can't believe I finally did it. I came all this way, and I finally got it done. It was absolutely amazing.
Yeah, that's great. Congratulations.
Thank
So,
you.
what your crew? Well, your pacers, were they local to there, or did you bring them from Wisconsin?
I was not planning to have pacers originally. The only pacers I was having was my one person crew, if she was able to get out and pace. So that would mean that someone else would need to take her car and move it for her. But there was a couple other people from Wisconsin that were doing the race, and one guy unfortunately dropped at mile 72, and his pacers had just shown up. So my crew talked to them, and they're like, well, Kevin will take pacers if you guys want to do it. They're like, yeah, we came all the way out here to do something. So that was nice. So, like I just met them on the spot, and they were very very nice people and very great. So they helped me through that second day, and then they helped me again towards the end of day three. So they're from Madison area, and it was great to meet them. And when you spend that much time with a person, you're that many miles into a race, you become instantly best friends. So they were great people.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, you tend to spill and you really get to
Awesome.
know everybody.
Oh, for sure, yeah, yeah.
So,
Hmm.
so somebody coming from the Midwest, what would be the advice that you would tell them to get ready for this?
You got to get used to the dry heat for one. You got to do heat training, whether that's just running during the summertime when it's humid and you don't like it, but it will pay off dividends in the future. Just embrace the heat. It's going to suck, but when you're out there, it's a dry heat, so it's a little bit easier. So you're not sweating so much, but it is hot, so you got to protect your skin. I was wearing like a sun visor and I wear arm sleeves and sunscreen and all that stuff. It's like, yeah, you look ridiculous, but you don't want to get sunburned out there because it would destroy you so bad.
Yeah, I can
And,
imagine. What's the temperature? You said it's hot. What's hot?
um, they said the first 2 days it got up in the high 80s or like maybe 86, 87. I think it got. So yeah, it was hot, but nothing ridiculous. I mean, coming from the Midwest, like yeah, it was hot during here in the summertime, but with the humidity, it's an extra blanket on you. So when I was out there, it's like it's hot, but I can breathe, which is great.
Yeah. And is there anything that you would have changed? You talked a little bit about running some of the flatter parts. Nothing else that you would change?
No, like I said, some of the flatter parts I would maybe run a little bit more, but obviously those first 2 days where it was runnable, it just was too hot. So I was like, I'm gonna play it safe and just walk here. It just played safe. But some of the other parts that were runnable, I had pacers with me, and I just knew they weren't up for a running pace, which was fine. So it's just I'd rather just spend the time with them and get to know them and enjoy my time out on the course than just kind of powering through and being fatigued later. So if I was to do the exact same thing, I'm like I would maybe cut off a couple hours, but I was very happy with my time overall.
Yeah, it sounds like a smart way to do it your first
Hmm.
time, and you go that
Yeah,
far, you train that hard. You don't want to start from mile one again and come
no, no,
back.
no.
So yeah, it sounds really great job. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Is there anything else about the race that you wanted to share with us that we didn't ask?
Oh boy, it just was the people you run into out there is, I mean, people from all over. Obviously, not a lot of people from other countries because of COVID this year, but I met people from all over the country, all walks of life. I met one woman. She was a movie producer for some short independent films like that, and she actually sold something to Amazon recently. So I was like, oh, I'm like, I've actually heard of that. So that was interesting. Just talking to her for a while, and then talking to other people what they do for work and just where they're from and their backgrounds and other experiences and stuff like that. And then at the mile 32 aid station in the middle of the desert, it's hot. This is day one, and it's just like, oh boy, I just want some ice water. And get to the aid station, they have no ice. It's just like, oh man. So I'm just kind of like, head down a little bit, and I see this giant tortoise. I'm like, there's wait, is there tortoise in Utah? I'm like, I don't think there is. And this thing was like a giant, like you see in the zoo, just a giant tortoise. And I was talking to somebody like, no, that's our pet tortoise. Because yeah,
Oh.
because this aid station was at someone's like summer house. They're there for 6 months out of the year. So like, oh, it's our pet tortoise. I was
Ah.
like, oh, I'm like, I'm like, am I hallucinating already? But no, it's just the course itself. It's gorgeous. It's yeah, it's hot in some parts and it's vast and wide open. But there's parts of the course. It's like if I wasn't running this, there's absolutely no reason to be out here. Even if you're just a tourist in it, there's no reason to be out there. So I got to see parts of Utah that most people will never see in their life just because there's no reason to be out that far in the middle of the desert. So I was very fortunate to see some of that, but you got to take it in stride because when you're out that far, like 102 miles, 200 miles in, it's more of an appreciation for what you're seeing because you're working so hard for it. So it's you get to appreciate a little bit more.
Yeah, so that's actually has me thinking like how did you was it the course marked the entire time or did you have to have it on your watch? Like how did you navigate it?
The course was very well marked. They had little ribbons with reflectors on them that helped a lot during the nighttime. But it was mandatory. You had to have the course downloaded on some sort of GPS, whether it was your phone and your watch. But I had it on the Gaia app, so you can use it offline, which is great. So like I never got lost. There was one time it's like, okay, do we turn left or do we turn right? and you just take a couple steps and you see that your arrow's pointing in the wrong direction. It's like, okay, just turn the other way. So the app with the downloaded maps, it was great. You never get lost with that thing at all.
And is that on your watch or is that on a device that you carry?
That was on my phone, just on my cell phone.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then how'd you keep your cell phone charged the entire time?
Well, you keep it in airplane mode, which saves a lot of the battery.
Uh-huh.
But then I do have a power bank I carry with me to charge my headlamp mainly, and then charge my phone. But I think I had charged my phone like once over the whole course, because in airplane mode it'll last for 30 hours or so. So yeah, when you don't have it on and then in airplane mode, it barely uses any battery. And I use it mostly just for navigation, which is a few times at most. But I use it mostly just to take pictures, just because I knew I was going to see some amazing things out there.
Yeah. So you could just turn it on. Well, if does it work in airplane mode to tell if the arrow's the right way? So you don't even have to turn it on for that.
No, you just leave in airplane mode. You turn the GPS on for a couple seconds, and that's about it. So yeah, I charged my phone like once or twice during the whole course, which is great.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Do you got anything, Crystal, that you wanted to ask him?
Did you meet David Goggins?
He passed me in mile 10. Because yeah, he started in the wave, I think 15 or 30 minutes behind me, and he passed me. I mean, when I came into mile 10, that was a lot of runners were there. I mean, it was a bottleneck. People were just coming in so fast. Mm-hmm. So I mean, I saw everybody in the whole course within probably like 2 hours of time. So that's cool. I saw him, but it was just passing. That was all.
That's cool. Yeah, I was watching they were live streaming some of the finishers coming through it. I mean, the course looks really cool. It just looks amazing. There's so many different cool pockets and cool areas, and the finish line. I like how the finish line's on a road, so you're kind of finishing not quickly, but it's not like you're climbing up a mountain to get to the finish line. It's a road, and you turn right in. And I know there's mountains before that, but you know when you're up top and you can look down, you can see the road. It's probably a great feeling to be at the end.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Did you? What was the first thing you wanted when you got to the finish line?
To sit down. No, I mean, I was feeling really good overall, but like I said, the last 16 miles, my feet were hurting pretty good. So I just want to take my shoes and socks off and let my feet dry out and just put my feet up because they were starting to swell up. So I'm like, I just want to sit down. I wanted something cold to drink, and I just wanted something to eat. I mean, out there with the heat and the dry air and the dust, your throat gets so dry and scratchy that it hurts to talk after a while just because it gets so scratchy. But one of the paces I had on the second day, I was like, oh man, I'm like, if I could hit anything right now, it'd be a popsicle, just because it's cold, it's sweet, and it would soothe my throat. So when he showed up at mile 185, he's like, I brought you popsicle. I'm like, oh my God, you're my hero. You're my best friend.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was great.
That's great.
That is the ultra running community right there. Ask and ye shall receive.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's a small thing, but it meant the world to me. It was the smallest thing, but it meant so much.
That's great. Well, super congratulations. I'm so impressed. It sounds amazing. What a great adventure.
Well, thank you.
Crystal, do you want to do the Ornery Mule Stubborn 5?
Sure, yes. These are 5 questions, just random questions, and you can answer them fast or stubborn or take forever to answer. That seems to be the thing lately, where people are like, I don't know. I can't answer that. So whatever you want to do.
All right.
So question 1 is, share one thing about you that people may not know.
I try to read a lot of books and watch a lot of documentaries on anything to do with like astrophysics or space. It's like I might not understand half of it, but it's absolutely fascinating to me. So I try to watch as much as I can.
That's cool.
It is very interesting. All right. What is something that you are looking forward to?
I would say the next thing I'm looking forward to is snowboarding this winter. I've got a group of friends from Madison, and my sister included, with her husband. We get together every winter and we go snowboarding somewhere. We've gone out to Colorado twice, but obviously this year it's not going to happen. So we're going up to Michigan this winter for a weekend with a group of friends. So hopefully it all can work out with the COVID and nobody gets sick. But we're going to play it safe. But it's always a party, so I'm looking forward to that.
That's cool.
That sounds like fun. So I guess that kind of that your a hobby is snowboarding?
During the wintertime, yeah, I go when I can. But where I live, it takes a little bit of drive to get anywhere that's decent. So I don't go as much as I want to, but when I get the opportunities, I do go. Yes.
Yeah. And you said you like to read or watch documentaries about like astrophysics and stuff like that. And is there any other hobbies that you like?
Well, with my newfound free time I got now running every weekend, I do like to cook and experiment with cooking. And I grew up in restaurants. I was there like 13 years, and so I worked around kitchens a lot. So in my free time now, I use that experience, and I try to make something new and something fun. So that's what I do on the weekends now.
What's something that you've made lately that you really liked?
Oh, something that I've gotten really really good at is banana bread. And I just started,
Banana
yeah.
bread.
Oh, it's so good. And
Yeah.
I started with since it's the season, I started with pumpkin bread this last week, and it's been really good so
Ooh.
far. Yeah.
So bake. That sounds good.
That sounds good. All right. Do you have someone that you look up to in your life, like an influence?
Not one person specifically, but pretty much any of my friends that just do amazing things, and just people in general that do amazing things. I draw inspiration from people from all over that I see. It's like they're a normal person and they do amazing things. Like, I don't know if you've heard of Michael Ortiz at all.
I actually have.
Yeah, yeah. I met him a couple times, and I've been able to crew him and pace him a couple times. He's become a good friend, and he just finished his 100 by 100 challenge last weekend. So he's
Nice.
been doing 100 miles every weekend for 100 weekends in a row. So last weekend was number 100. So I got to watch the live stream of him doing that, and that was pretty awesome to watch.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
All right. And the last question is, what is your favorite treat for a job well done?
I guess it depends on the season. If it's during the summertime, probably some Dairy Queen, something cold. But
What do you get at
most
Dairy Queen?
no, just usually just a Blizzard with Oreo cookies or something like that, or Reese's.
Oh
But
yeah.
nothing too fancy. But I would say most of the time it's just a burger, cheeseburger if I can. Nothing too fancy.
All acceptable answers.
You pass. Good job.
Oh,
You
thank you.
pass. I
What
love
thing?
Oreo Blizzards are so good. Okay, I'm just throwing that out there. I love Oreo Blizzards.
Yeah, that's what my son likes. The Oreo Blizzards. I'm wondering one more. I'm going to add one more question because you
Sure.
talked about
Okay.
your parents at the beginning. Like, what did they think about you doing this race? Like,
Well, my dad's the one that actually got me into racing many years ago. I've been racing for about 9 years now, and he did a race downtown Appleton during the Christmas parade called the Santa Scamper, and it's just a 1 mile fun run straight downtown. And he signed me up one year. I was like, okay, I'll do it with you, and I had a lot of fun because it was bringing back that competition that I didn't have since playing soccer in high school. So that was fun. And then I think like the next spring I signed up for a half marathon, and like that next fall I signed up for like 2 marathons. So it was the competition that got me back into it. So my dad's the one that got me into it, and then obviously having that competition and just finding new distances and new people and new things, just and the adventures just kept me going.
so they,
But ever since then, every time I go something like longer than a marathon, when I first started, they were just like, what, why? And every time I would sign up for something bigger, like 100 mile, they're like, no, what? No, that's not good for you. You're gonna hurt yourself. And then when I si- and then when I signed for the 240, they're just like, what? They're like, but I think they finally
Yeah.
given up, and they're just looking at me like, it's what you want to do as long as you know how to train for it. So good luck, I guess. And but obviously they're super proud of me now, so they're happy, but they still don't understand it. But that's okay.
yeah, I think that's really cool. I can imagine, like, just trying to wrap, if you're not in with the culture, like we get used to it. We're like, oh, they ran a 100 miler or 50 miler or just a little 50K this weekend.
Yeah.
Like that kind of words start happening. So I love hearing about, people that it's a little bit outside of their realm. That's cool.
Yeah, I tell people, not just my family, but all my friends that don't understand what I'm doing. I'm like, it's all relative. I'm like, your 240 might be a 5K. At one point for me, it was a marathon because I couldn't finish it. But it's all relative to what you're used to. So I'm just one of those people that always looks to push my boundaries and my limits. So I'm always looking for the next big thing. And the 240 was the ultimate challenge for this year. So I conquered that. So who knows what's next?
Yeah. Well, thank you, Kevin. Really great job. Super interesting story. Like, I love this.
Well, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, and thanks for giving us the time, all the time to share it. I bet you that somebody listening is gonna now decide that they're gonna do it.
Oh, I sure hope so. I've had a lot of friends just message me over the last couple months. There's like watching you train for this and then obviously accomplishment, now I'm trying to do something I've never done before, or I found that, what I thought was impossible, I'm now trying to accomplish. So it's meant a lot to me to see other friends and family, push their limits, even if it's not something, as big as 240 miles. Maybe it's just doing 10 miles or whatever for that week. As long as they're doing something to make themselves better for the long run, that's what makes me happy.
I agree. Yeah, get everybody out on the trails. It makes you feel better. It makes you happy, whether you're doing 5 miles or 100 miles or 240.
Right.
Well, great. Congratulations.
Yes,
Thank you.
congratulations. Thank you for being on our show. We really appreciate it, and it's so nice to meet you.
Oh, thank you for having me.
And I just wanted to say real quick, thank you to our listeners. You guys are all awesome. We really appreciate you. Leave us iTunes reviews. Let us know what we're doing wrong, what we're doing right. We're always learning. And also come be a Patreon. Yeah, I'm not saying anything more. Just come be a Patreon. Everything else is secret. You won't know unless you join our Patreon page. And you can find that on our Facebook page, The Dirt Trail Running.
And I want to give a shout out to Lori Leonard. Did you see that, Crystal? She
did.
Smoked a half a marathon. What was it? I think it was 1:43. I meant to write down what her time was.
It was around 1:43.
Yeah, really. And her mom, Casey Lichtig, paced her. So
her daughter.
Or yeah.
Her daughter.
Oops. Said that backwards. I'm glad you corrected me. So yeah, congratulations, Lori.
Yes, congrats, Lori.
And then what's that?
You needed to thank Loretta.
Yes. Thank you, Coach Loretta, because she keeps us all organized. She works very, very hard. It's been fantastic. Like, it's just been amazing having her help with the show. She makes a big difference. So thank you so much. And then thank you to my son, Royal, over here, that Crystal's still trying to get him to pop into the screen.
Just wave a hand, Royal. Wave a hand.
But he's shy over there, but he does all this technical stuff that we wouldn't know how to do, and we would be frustrated. So we super appreciate everybody's help. It's teamwork that gets this done, and and thank you to the listeners too. We're really appreciating all the little notes we're getting, and we doubled the amount of downloads this last month. So
nice. Of
how many we've been getting. So it's a lot. We're like, wow, people care what we're saying. That's super cool. So, and thank you again, Kevin. And we will see everybody at the next show.
All right. Thank you very much.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.